Welcome to another edition of the Mo Show Live, everybody. Hey, I'm Morris Lilienthal. I'm super excited to have my friend Chris Casseday on as our guest today. When Chris is not doing his day job, helping companies like mine with digital marketing, and when he's not out being a dad and a husband, you can find him working on his online business, 513 Kicks. 513 Kicks is an online shoe company, and that's what we're going to be talking about today with Chris. We're going to be talking a little bit about his passion for shoes. We're going to be talking with him about what he's learned in the last about 3 years running an online business, the ins and outs of running an online business, and get some tips and tricks from him and some of the negative things that he may tell you to warn you about if you're going to be starting an online business, and then kind of deep dive on maybe some more sneakerhead stuff. And certainly I'm curious as to know is when I see sneakers are going for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, who's setting these prices, and are people really paying that much for sneakers? I think they are, because Chris is selling them. So, folks, Chris is based out of the Cincinnati, Ohio area. 513 Kicks was started, I think, as an official business in 2017. I think we're going to learn that Chris started this before it was official, a long, long time ago, selling shoes. And over the last couple of years, he sold thousands and thousands of pairs of shoes and has thousands of positive online reviews. So I'm excited to have my friend Chris on the show today. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Thanks for having me, Morris. Good to talk with you anyway, but it's good to talk about shoes, something different. So this is awesome.
It is awesome, and I know this is a passion of yours, and I've enjoyed watching your journey with it with 513 Kicks over the last couple of years, and I'm excited to have you on to talk more about it. And folks, if you're tuning into the show live today and you've got questions for us, right below the comments section of the video box here, put a question in there. If you want to give us feedback, you had a question about his business, questions about running an online business. If you're watching the replay, and that's where a lot of people watch the show, if you got questions, we'll monitor that feed afterwards and get you any answers to any questions later on. So, Chris, kind of, I guess, where I would start is, this is something that I know has been a passion of yours. Where did it start, and kind of how did you come up with a passion for shoes and started at a really early age?
Yeah, so I'm in my early 30s, so I grew up, in the Michael Jordan era, right? Like, it was, as most people know, revolutionary when it comes to the game of basketball, but then also how the game of basketball translated to off court, right? For more relatable for me, because I'm not making the NBA. I played in high school and that's about it. But I would always watch Michael Jordan. I was always going to watch him and the Bulls play, when they're going through their three-peats and, dominating the NBA. And of course, a piece of Michael Jordan's image is his shoes.
Right.
And that has only grown and evolved over the last couple of decades. But back then, when I was 10 years old, I had no income, right? I was 10, so I could maybe cut some lawns or shovel driveways or do some chores and make a little bit of money. But even back then, Jordan sneakers in my size were $100 or $150, which is a lot of money. So I was like, how do I support my sneaker habit? And that's kind of where not 513 Kicks was born, but the idea of selling sneakers to make a profit to then help me grow my own personal collection started. And that's kind of where it all evolved from at the age of 10. And I was at that time selling a lot like on eBay or message boards, or, there wasn't really social media like that. So things were a lot different back then. But that's kind of how it started. It was watching Michael Jordan and looking what was on his feet, and then begging my dad to go to the mall and say, do they even have that in the stores? Because the internet, it's just so different now. But it was more fun back then, I think. So it's interesting how it's all evolved.
So you were basically flipping kicks, right? You're taking them, finding some shoes that maybe were harder to find, and then just kind of reselling them to make some profit to go buy your own personal shoes. Is that kind of what you were doing as a kid?
Correct. Yeah. And the idea, then it took a while to get my dad to buy onto it, because he would say, well, why wouldn't anyone else just do the same thing? Why is someone going to pay more if you just bought them at the mall? But it's supply and demand in different markets. Hey, in New York or Chicago, the shoe might be sold out, but here in Cincinnati, they were all over. So it's okay, let's take that and see if there's any, legs under that. And that still exists today as far as different areas of the country and even overseas. but it's leveled out a little bit just because of the internet and these different third-party platforms and stuff that are out. But yeah, that's where it started. It was, how do I fund my own sneaker habit with something that I know really well, that I know that I can sell for a profit?
Yeah. Well, I know they've gotten even more expensive, but I know when, I'm a little bit older than you, but I remember those days, and, you always wanted to be the cool kid and got the latest pair of Jordans or the newest Nikes that were out. And even back then, they were expensive. And,
Yeah.
trying to convince your parents to buy those was a tough sell often. And so, figuring out or gaming the system in a way to help kind of self-fund it is a cool way to do it. I know you told me previously, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but there was a story, it seems like I remember from high school or something you told me one time about your teacher kind of questioning your sneaker game and how many pairs of shoes you had and doing. And tell us about that story about I said something about wearing a new pair of shoes almost every day at school. What's that story?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know I told you that, but yes. So yeah, it was in, I think it was like freshman year of high school or something. Which, if you're a Cincinnati person, shout out to Finneytown High School. In Cincinnati, that's all we care about, where you went to high school, not where you went to college or anything else. But yes, it was my English teacher, and I either like wrote something about shoes in like a paper or something, and like how I sold them. And then she was like, well, how many do you have? And I think I just threw it out there like, I can wear a different pair of shoes every day or every day this school year if you want. And of course, no one believed me, and I could totally do it probably 2 or 3 times over. And I did it. Like, it was the whole year. And she even got to the point where she had like a tally marks like on a notebook and stuff. And I don't know how she kept them straight, but I told her the names of them. And if she challenged me on it, I probably still beat the challenge, but I did wear something different, like a different pair each day of the school year. So nothing I put on my resume, but just something interesting.
Well, but to me, that was such a cool story. You can tell that stuck out with me because that was just like, man, as a ninth or 10th grade kid, to be able to do that and to self-fund that, because, to be able to kind of, do what you were doing, having your own little retail side business, to do that, it's pretty cool and enterprising. And you were running your own Shark Tank, kids thing before Shark Tank even existed. So, but that just shows your passion for shoes and at an early age before you actually started this online company that we're going to be talking a little bit more about today.
Yep.
I guess kind of for those that certainly haven't heard about your online business, talk to us a little bit what the business plan and the business model is for 513 Kicks. What are you buying and selling, and how are you buying them, and that kind of thing?
Sure. So nowadays, like, sneaker collecting is a huge, I would say, industry, but it is. Like, yes, you can go to the mall and go to Foot Locker and buy a pair of shoes, but you're not going to be able to buy like these type of shoes, because while they may have been released at Foot Locker, last week or 2 years ago, they sell out instantly. Think about like online as well. So kind of where I fit is helping collectors like me, like people that will pay a premium for shoes, and help them find the pairs that they want, but do it at a price that's probably the best price they're going to find. I have shoes that I've sold for, say, $300 that someone else down the street is trying to sell them for $500. If I sell them for $300, I'm still going to make profit. I still have like numbers that I need to hit, but I'm not in it to like, gouge someone, like, because that just doesn't make me feel good. Because if I was on the other end, I wouldn't want to go through that, and I'd have a negative experience of like that person or that business. So I like to provide not my tagline, but my goal is like, provide the pairs that you want at the best price, which sounds cheesy, but it's true. I try to live by that. If someone has a better price, I'll probably meet or beat that and provide better value. Like, if you buy something today, it's in the mailbox by 6 a.m. tomorrow, so you get stuff fast. I don't wait or ship stuff late. Like, I'm very communicative with all my customers, which is something where I've been on the other end, and it's like, where are my shoes? Am I getting ripped off? Like, what's going on? So it's like, how do I overcome all those potential like challenges or objections? And I just address those head on and provide really good customer service. And that's why I have thousands of reviews and people that, really like the experience of
Right.
shopping with me.
And when you,
So
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I didn't really answer like how I get pairs like these or anything else. There's people that do what I do, and they do like the what I call like retail arbitrage game, where they'll go to the Nike outlets, they'll go to the Ross or Marshalls or Burlington Coat Factory and buy shoes that are cheap and try to sell them, which works. Like, I know people that are making six figures easy doing that. It takes a lot of time, but my approach is I work with collectors. So like people like me, which I used to have hundreds and hundreds of pairs. Now I don't, because I've sold them all. But say someone has 500 pairs of shoes, they want to sell them and make money, but they don't know how. I would help them with that. I would either take them all, sell them on like a consignment basis, which as the pairs sell, I take a percentage, or we could work out some sort of like buyout agreement where it's like, hey, I'll buy these 100 pairs from you for this much. And obviously I leave some room in there for me to make some money.
Right.
But the person that I buy from is very happy, because the last thing I want to do is, how do I sell these? How do I ship them? What do I need to do? Like, there's a bunch of little pitfalls that people can fall into if they've never sold stuff online. So I take all that away from them and make it really easy.
Got it. And so when you're, I guess, looking to purchase shoes to resell, are there certain trends that you're kind of keeping track of, and certain things that are out there that people are more, excited about, or certain styles that you think are more trendy right now, or the market's hotter for from a price standpoint? How do you kind of gauge that, Chris? And is it also more based upon,
Sure.
What's available for you, what you're finding too?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely supply and demand at work with all of these. For example, like I have some pairs of Kobe Bryant sneakers up here at the top. A month ago, these might be worth, $100 to $150 a pair. Now they're worth probably 5 times that. And I'm not selling them, like it's just a collector's piece. But obviously the real world impact of what happened translates to this. Because shoes, each collectors view shoes differently than people that aren't collectors, right? They think of it, yes, it's more than leather and rubber. There's a story behind it. So like that shoe up there that Kobe Bryant wore, they know how many points he scored and who it was against and what that meant. And there's just so many different stories tied into shoes that helps supply and demand, right? If there's a big story and a big like celebrity draw to it, the shoe's going to be worth more. So I do look at that. I look at what I can potentially sell a shoe for, what's the supply and demand right now, and then what do I think it's going to be? Because there could be shoes that I buy today that I might sit on and hold for a year or two because I know the demand will go up. So I do look at all that. But at the end of the day, like the people that I buy shoes from, I want to make sure that they feel good about the transaction as well. Saying, hey, this shoe's probably worth $150, but I can give you $100. You can get money today and don't worry about any other issues. And then I make some profit and we go on our merry way and everyone's happy. So it's very transparent. I don't like to hide anything from anyone or try to make people feel like they're getting taken advantage of.
Right. Well, and I think with an online business that people are gonna let that be known pretty quickly if the company they're dealing with is not being transparent. And I don't think you're going to stay in business very long if you're not. And you and I see that in our day jobs with reviews and things like that all the time. Folks, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Mo Show Live. Our guest today is Chris Casseday, the founder of 513 Kicks, an online shoe company based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Chris, I think something that's really interesting to me that I'd love to get some feedback from you on, that I think a lot of our viewers, whether they're sneakerheads or not sneakerheads, there's a lot of people now in today's times, are wanting to run an online business. And I've talked to a lot of people here in the Huntsville area and friends that are saying, I'm going to start this business, and then maybe they consult with us about, legal matters with regard to starting the business. But the business is primarily an online business. Yes, I'd be interested to get some feedback from you for our viewers as to people who maybe want to start it. Maybe it's not a sneaker company per se, but just an online business and something they have a passion for. Looking back a couple of years into this now, is there some things that you think, man, I didn't really see this issue or this problem coming up, but this is more difficult, than I thought it might be running a business. Is there something out there that's kind of like, man, it took me a minute to kind of figure that out from an online business owner's perspective to get that down, but to kind of get it running smoothly? Is there something, if somebody was asking you a question, kind of what some pitfalls to be looking out for? Is there something you would bring up, one or two issues you might bring up to that person?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, before you embark on the journey to start your own business, like you mentioned it, you really need to be passionate about it, because there's going to be times where it's not all sunshine and rainbows and you're like, why am I doing this? Like, this feels like I just keep getting beat up left and right. Like in my case, there could be times where it's like, hey, I sell a pair of shoes. It was actually bought with a fraudulent credit card, and now there's like a chargeback, and then, hey, I lost the money and they took my shoes, which, chalk it up to a lesson learned. There's not much you can do to avoid that. That's more like, cost of doing business. The tax write-off, yes. But, there's like things like that where you can be just aware of kind of all the potential things that could go wrong and then try to proactively address them, right? So have to be passionate about whatever you're selling, and then you have to know what you're selling really well. What I do selling stuff online, I could sell a ton of other things and make money, but I don't know them as well as I know shoes and like kind of the industry and the market. And because I have the knowledge, it makes the whole process and what I'm doing that much more dialed in and that much better. And I'm not trying to fake it and try to, resell video games or anything like tangentially related that, it's just not my sweet spot. So it's like silo in, really have a passion and really know what you're selling and go full deep on that. And once you have that figured out, sure, maybe you can expand and grow and add other products or other services or whatever, but be really good at that one thing first and then branch out and grow from there. Because you don't want to be 50% on 10 things. I'd rather be 100% on one or two things before you spread yourself too thin. So
yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, I agree 100%. I think a lot of times people, are looking at maybe dollars over everything else to start with. And then when things get tough, if they don't have a passion for what they're doing, then they never make it far enough into it because they don't have a passion for it to actually make any, return on their investment for the time and money that they're already putting in to get the business set up. So certainly having a passion for what you're doing is critical. I guess, one of the things about running an online business, one of the big things I assume, Chris, is no different than a brick and mortar business to some degree, and that's marketing. And I know that's something you've got some experience in your day job. If you had one or two things that you could, express to a new online business owner, is it setting up a website? Is it social media? And what would be some kind of little nuggets you might give some advice? And I don't know, that may vary a little bit based upon the service or the product they're selling, but most online businesses are going to need, some type of web presence and some type of social media presence to kind of get some traction and maintain some traction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, having a website and social media channels just establishes a layer of credibility that you really can't get any other way. So as you know, and as I've said, I've been selling shoes online for over 20 years, but I just kind of branded and launched 513 Kicks within the last 3 years. The change from that is just by branding myself and having that company just gives you more credibility, and I've gotten a lot more opportunities that way as far as like new inventory and just building better relationships. Because it's not just me, Chris Casseday, it's 513 Kicks. Yes, it's managed by Chris Casseday, but it's more professional, which I think is important. Like, you don't want to say you're running a business and then it's just like all your personal stuff, and then you have like a Yahoo email address. So it's just like little things like that. Like, hey, spend $5 a month and get a professional email address. For me, building a website was easy because, as you know, I do it every day. So there was zero overhead cost, aside from like paying to host the site. but it did take a lot of sweat equity, right? Like it took a lot of time and effort to build it, but it's something I was willing to do because I feel like it would pay off in the end. Um, but you need to like think about all those different things before you embark on this. It's like, what do I need? What are the different pieces? How am I going to get them in place in the most cost-effective way, right? Because startup costs for a business can be pretty hefty depending on what you're doing, right? If you need equipment or, sourcing goods, whatever it is, like you need to think about that because you don't want to like dip your toe in and then say, this is too much. And then you've lost, whatever you put into it plus all the time, opportunity cost is a big thing.
Yeah.
So just really surveying, like taking a step back before you jump in is true in a lot of things in life, but before you embark on this, journey of starting your own company or business, whether it's just you or you and a couple other people, like do the planning first. And that could be like, what are you selling? What are you doing? But to your point with marketing, where are our customers? Like, who are they? What are they using? How can they find us? And how do we make that experience easy? For me, it was a website. It's social media, mostly Instagram. I mean, I'm on Twitter and Facebook and, LinkedIn and Pinterest and stuff, but a lot of my sales and stuff from social media wise come from Instagram. And that's great. That was my priority. That was my intention. And I'm just fueling that more. So yeah, just the planning, the business planning is crucial for established businesses, but especially for new businesses trying to get off the ground.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think setting up that structure to know, hey, I've got this product or this thing that I want to sell and I'm great at it and I have a passion for it. But, before you start dumping a bunch of money into certain things and buying inventory and doing, you need to have a marketing plan and a business plan put together as to where, how are we going to get the word out? Do I have the back end and infrastructure to support it? Do I have the inventory if I start getting orders? How are we going to handle it? I'm sure, I love seeing some of your pictures with you, doing your shipping and it's, you've got boxes galore, but I'm assuming that's something you've had to refine and adapt over the time as you've grown and your business has gotten bigger. And then I love that, you brand, even your boxes when you ship and you have, great stickers and all kinds of cool stuff like that, to brand out and sell and to provide as just little nuggets for your customers. And I think that's really cool. And I would just really encourage people to do that. And one thing I would encourage people, I can't help but being a lawyer and saying that, make sure that if you're going to do this, if you're going to launch a true retail type of company online or not, that you really need to speak to an accountant and a lawyer, a business lawyer, somebody local, really set up and incorporate your company to insulate yourself from any potential liability from a personal perspective. And also from a tax perspective, there may be some benefits to setting up a corporation that may be beneficial for filing taxes. That I would highly recommend you talk to a lawyer in your area, or accountant or somebody, just so you can get some good advice. And that's part of what we were talking about, setting up the business dive in at first. We kind of talked about, kind of where you get your inventory and those kind of things. Get ready, here towards the end of our conversation. I'm just really intrigued that, I love seeing your Instagram posts and I've been on the website, and it just amazes me that we've got all these shoes from 5, 6, 8, 10 years ago, and even more modern current shoes that they're selling for $300 and $400 and $500 a pop. How are those values being set, Chris? Who's kind of, where are you looking to value when you're putting a price on sneakers? Try to certainly give your customers a good deal, but there's got to be something setting the price. Where's that coming from?
Yeah, I mean, how it's done now is way different than how it was done even 5 years ago. There's different platforms out there, what I would call like third party, right? It's not Nike, it's not Jordan, it's a different business that's literally just in place to make money on this transaction, right? It's similar to eBay. And while eBay still exists, in the last 5 years, there's been so many different marketplaces that have popped up. I mean, you could sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace, but there's sneaker related. There's a site called StockX, which is like sneakers plus a stock market combined, which is very interesting. There's another one called GOAT, greatest of all time. And it's the same thing. It's like, I have these shoes to sell. I will sell them through this platform and I will make my money, the buyer will receive the goods, and then the platform takes a cut. In some cases, it can be, 8% up to 11, 12%, which is okay. I'm fine with paying those fees if it's helping me move inventory and I'm still hitting my margins. But at the end of the day, what drives the price and what drives how much I can sell a pair of shoes for, how much someone else can sell a pair of shoes for, it goes back to the stories. It goes back to supply and demand. It goes back to what is the pool behind this specific pair of shoes. Because it might be $150 at Foot Locker. You might buy it today, and because of demand, you could sell it today for $300. There's instances where there's bigger gaps, right? If it's something really limited, it's $200 today, and you could sell it for $2,000, 2 hours later. It's that volatile simply because of supply and demand. And there's been instances where I've bought a pair of shoes for $100 and sat on them for a decade, and now they're worth $1,000. And same stuff happens with other collectibles and cards and art and everything else. But it's very true in the sneaker market. The difference is, like, the people that are buying these shoes are younger, they're very tech savvy, so these platforms have really adjusted to that. They have apps for your iPhone, they just have everything super dialed in so that with 2 clicks of a button, you can buy $1,000 pair of shoes. And it's like, you don't even blink an eye. So it's like, you have to watch yourself if you're like not very, self-restraining on like spending money. Because if you buy shoes and you have some disposable income, you can spend a lot of money really quickly because of these platforms that are out there.
Yeah. So if you get in a pair, if you're buying a collection then, or if you're looking at buying someone's collection, do you just kind of get on one of these platforms? I mean, so unless you've recently sold some similar pairs, but do you kind of get on one of these platforms and look to see, do they have kind of a history of what's sold? And you can look kind of like what you can do when you're buying, kind of like Kelly Blue Book or something like that. You can kind of, or Auto Trader for sneakers, can you kind of look and see what other similar shoes are selling for of similar size, I should say?
Yeah, exactly that. So say I'm buying 20 pairs of shoes from someone, I'm going to take note of what they are, what size it is, what's the condition, because I sell new and used shoes, so that obviously plays a factor into the price. You'd be surprised, people will spend lots of money on used gym shoes. But yeah, it's like doing the kind of cost evaluation of each pair and then saying, what can I pay for these? What's my expected profit? And then the other piece is like, how quickly can I sell them, or what's the strategy behind selling them, right? Like I said earlier, I might hold off on selling a pair because I think the demand will go up higher later and I can afford to sit on them for a little bit. In other cases, people might just say, hey, I can spend a little bit of money, but I need to get it right back because it's really tight. So I've built it in a way where I have a little bit more float and margin where I can invest in the inventory and then figure out the best time to sell it to make sure my margins are good. But yeah, you can look at historical data. You can look at completed listings on eBay. You can use this platform like StockX or Go. Any of these other ones will show you some historical sales. And that's usually a good bellwether to say, like, what's the market dictating right now? But the future, who knows? It could change. Like, real life stuff happens and, someone, dies, or like, which sounds really morbid, but it is what it is. And there's people that have totally taken advantage in the wrong way, I think, of tragedies like that and said, oh, this is a great opportunity to make a lot of money. That's like the exact opposite direction that I'm going in. Like those Kobe Bryant shoes up here, like those are in with me on consignment from someone else. Like he's actually an older guy that's a really good friend. He doesn't have a computer. He doesn't know how to sell shoes, but he has a lot of shoes. As soon as that happened, like as soon as that accident happened with Kobe Bryant, I texted him and said, hey, are you cool if we just don't try to sell these and just, I want you to hang on to them, hold on to them. It just feels weird, which I think is the right thing to do. There's been plenty of other people that have gone the other way. And yes, they've made money. And yes, collectors are getting Kobe memorabilia and holding on to it. But it's like, I'm not, that's the opposite of the, I'm not trying to make money in that regard. So it's interesting. It's real life mixed with sneakers. It's crazy how some of that stuff overlaps.
So I got to ask this, and I think I know the answer to this question, but I got to ask as we get ready to wrap up. I mean, when you're selling $300-$400 pair of sneakers, are most people wearing these shoes? Or are they putting them up on a shelf like that?
A lot of people are wearing them. It's crazy. There's this story that just happened last week. There's a guy here locally. I've known him like through friends tangentially, like, hey, like I know you, but I don't know you. I had a pair of shoes that I was trying to sell for like over $1,000, which sounds crazy. They were only a $200 pair of shoes when they released, but the supply and demand, they were really limited. They're worth over $1,000. He's locally said, hey, I want them, I'll come pick them up. So he came here and he picked them up, he bought them, and we were happy. I made the money I needed to. And then he was like, I'm going to wear these. And I was like, that's awesome. He was like, no, I'm going to LA tomorrow. I'm going to wear them. And then I saw on his Instagram, he's been wearing them all weekend, which is great. It's like, I love that. Like, yes, he just spent $1,000 on a pair of shoes, but he's wearing them and enjoying them and, doing what shoes are meant to be done with, is on your feet. But yeah, there's people that collect them too. So I don't discriminate as far as that. If you want to buy a pair of shoes and wear them, great. If you want to buy a pair of shoes and hold on to them forever because they have a special memory, tied to you or whatever, that's great too. So it runs the gamut. People don't care. They'll wear $10,000 pair of shoes and not even think about it.
Well, like I said, to each his own, and that's cool. And I love shoes and doing, and as you know, my son does too. And we need to get more smaller kid size. I think we're missing the market here somehow. But I don't know that I'm willing to give Wyatt a several $100 pair of kids shoes either. So,
No.
as we learn more about what you're doing and want to find out what kind of inventory questions for you, since I know you're very giving, would be more than willing to share some insight with your experiences there. What's the best way for people in the company and to find you?
Yeah, so you can, and we'll put links for this, but you can, go to my website, 513kicks.com. On there is my email. You can also message with me instantly. There's a chat icon in the bottom corner. Just shoot me a note if you want to chat about shoe stuff or business. That's fine. I'm also on all the major social media platforms. Some iteration of 513 Kicks. There might be a hyphen or something in there, but you'll find me if you search for me. But at the end of the day, like, I've been doing this a long time. There's enough, like, if you want to sell shoes, I don't view you as like a competitor, right? It's like there's enough to go around, so I will help you out. I've learned a lot, even from like, how do I claim income on taxes, and what do I need to report, and how do I manage inventory, and how do I look at profit and loss and profitability, and how do I set goals? Like, I've had these same conversations with people that in theory are my competitors, but it's fine. Like, if I'm helping someone else out at the end of the day, that makes me feel good. And I'll still hit my numbers, make the money I need to for this side business, and help someone do the same thing. And then they can pass it on. So yeah, sharing knowledge is great. I'm all for it. So yeah, definitely hit me up and let me know if you need anything.
Yeah, well, we'll as you said, we'll put in the comments below the video. We'll put a link right here to the website, and we'll tag all the major social media channels that you're on. But if folks, if you're watching, or if you got kids that are into sneakers and doing, Chris is a good follow on Instagram, and I certainly suggested friends of mine that I know are kind of sneakerheads to check him out and to get up with you and do. Chris, thanks so much for your time today, man, and good luck with your business, and keep going, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It's been super fun, and
Yeah.
look forward to talking to you soon.
See you, buddy.